Hey, what's going on, YouTube community? Thank you so much for all your support thus far. It really has meant the world to me. Yeah, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help the channel in more ways than you think. And so, yeah, for those that are looking for more ways to support, I do have a Patreon as well. And so it's just a way that you can continue to support this channel slash adakai TCG while receiving some cool benefits for that support. And so I'm offering discounts in the online shop. I'm creating a Don each month to be a Patreon only Don, and it'll be included with any order that you place, and as well as things like voting rights, work in progress, and things like that. You'll have a voice in where you want to see adakai TCG head, and kind of the customs that you want to see made. And so, yeah, thank you so much for all my current supporters. You guys are amazing. And for those that want to join in, even as a free member, would love to have you just to join in to that community and just to be with us on this journey. And so thank you so much again, and let's get back to the video. Hey, what is going on, YouTube? It's adakai TCG, and I'm coming at you with a OP09 tier list video. I know there's been a lot of requests for me to do some more deck profiles from the non-meta leaders, things like RP Kid, Boa, and etc. like that. I promise I will be working on those soon. For now, though, I've been really just kind of grinding out the current meta. I'm playing Blackbeard, and I'll be playing that for the LCQ and Nationals, and so I really want to perform well there, and so just been devoting a lot of time into grinding out those matchups. But I do have a ton of leaders that I really want to try to cook up some deck lists for. Some of the more traditional stuff that I'm known for, like the rogue off-meta stuff, and so be on the lookout. I will definitely be posting it as I work through those things. But yeah, if you guys are going to be at Nationals, let me know, comment below, hit me up, because we'd love to meet up, hang out, play some games, and yeah. With that being said, let's go through the tier list. To speed up this video, because my past videos have been so long and I talk a lot, I put a bunch of the leaders that I think are, again, fun, but maybe not competitive in this current iteration, on the highest level into this locals. And so if you guys do have comments or questions about why I put certain ones here, definitely comment below. And if you think I've placed something incorrectly in this tier, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. This is just kind of my initial thoughts after some decent amount of testing. And yeah, so again, I think some of these leaders aren't terrible, but they do get shut down by some of the questions that this current meta is asking. And so each meta kind of asks new questions to players, forcing you to have certain answers. And so, yeah, with that being said, let's kind of go through what we have remaining here. OP01 Zoro. So, tricky. Honestly, so as an aggro deck, I think Zoro is always kind of a staple, generically good. Red has a lot of good rush. Probably could be pretty decent into Blackbeard, to be honest. Just kind of pressure and kind of go wide. I do think that Blackbeard will shut down the animals, the chopper engine, and so honestly, for an aggressive deck, what's weird is that in this meta we're seeing blue kind of take on that role, and so red now is in this weird spot. We're going to talk about Shanks in the future, but honestly, I think Zoro would be like top of tier 3, bottom of tier 2. For now, my gut tells me to put him on top of tier 3. And again, maybe I should talk about the tiers first. You would think by this time I would be able to have the format of this down, but tier 1, these are your meta-defining decks. These are the probably highest win percentage decks and the ones that ask the most unique questions that you must answer in the meta. And so these are kind of the meta-defining decks. The 1.5s are the ones that are super strong. We wouldn't be surprised to see it in the top 8. Could definitely see it being grabbing the #1 spot as well. And so tier 1, it's probably just one echelon higher of asking certain questions and really defining the meta. Tier 1.5 are the decks that can answer those questions and play well into the majority of the decks that we'll be seeing. Tier 2, I would expect to see a few of these leaders in the top 32, definitely top 64, and even occasionally top 16 as well. And so I don't want you guys to think that tier 2 is like, oh, it's unplayable. I think any of the top 3, honestly, you'd have a good shot into the current format. Obviously, with tier 2 having probably the worst spread of matchups compared to the 3. We have the rogue decks. This is where I'm going to kind of classify things that may be decent into some of the top meta decks, but has some particularly bad matchups. And then tier 3, it'll be pretty strong, but probably will lose out to the tier 1 and tier 1.5 decks. And so that's how we'll define it. So with that being said, I don't know what Red Green Luffy is doing here. I'm going to put him in locals. Let's go ahead and talk about this. And so next we have Red Green Law. Ooh, we're starting off with some harder ones. I'm going to put this one in Rogue. Honestly, I just haven't had enough testing, or I haven't seen enough people playing this deck. And so my instincts are telling me to put him in Rogue. I know we're constantly seeing more and more, red cards and green cards that you can play around with, but again, with the current iteration of the meta where it's sitting, I don't know if Red Green Law being a 4-life leader and honestly depending on a lot of on-play abilities for a lot of its effects really is the answer. But for now, let's put him in Rogue. Yes, we have Blue Dofi, Mono Blue Dofi. This is definitely a tier 1 deck. This deck just got so much support between the new starter deck and just all of the Warlord support that we've been seeing released over the last few sets. This deck can go wide, it can go fast, it can pump out bodies like no other. It has very, very flexible play lines. It has some of the best removal too, bottom decking access, and so it has a Diablo Jambe, a way to bypass blockers. It has so many answers. There's a lot of bounce, and so I think especially now that we're seeing a lot more Dofi's tech into Jozu as well, we're seeing to have better matchups across the board against some of the other top tier decks, and so definitely sitting at a top tier deck. Whitebeard, I'm going to say tier 3. 6k leader, but this guy definitely depends on many on-play effects. I think you just get kind of shut down and then just die arbitrarily. And so, yeah, we're putting a tier 3. If there's any players that have been really grinding this deck, I would love to see a deck list about that too. Want to try it OG too, but I do think that he kind of falls short. Smoker. So Smoker, actually, I really do think he has his own unique place among the strong black decks that we're seeing. I do think Lucci's still really strong. Obviously, I think Blackbeard is top tier, but I think Smoker might actually be 1.5. Maybe the bottom of 1.5, top of tier 2. Where I wouldn't be surprised to see this in the top 16, top 32. And it has unique things. Even just the TCG alone, it's just a fantastic card, And so, yeah, I'm gonna put it in probably bottom of tier 1.5. I do really believe in this leader. If it weren't for Blackbeard, I probably would still be grinding out this leader a little bit more. But yeah, Nami. So Nami. I know Nami struggles into Dofi. I know technically it should kind of struggle into Blackbeard, but I think a good Nami player actually knows how to work around Blackbeard. It's really weird, that matchup. Like, Blackbeard's not going to gain many cards, and you're going to want to play out bodies. But since you're never getting swung at, if you leader ability too early, you're going to just have really nothing to really... You have to start choosing between playing out a body and using leader ability. And a good Nami player can sometimes control when they're going to mill out for the game, right? And so... yeah, it's interesting. And so I think if it weren't for Dofi, Nami would actually still... And actually Purple Luffy, it struggles into as well. My instincts tell me to put it at the bottom of tier 1.5 or the top of tier 2. For now, let's put it at 1.5 bottom, but we may bring it to the very top of tier 2. Again, I do believe that Nami players that really can play and pilot the deck well know how to play around these tougher matchups, and so it is a very pilot-driven deck, and I've seen firsthand just how much they can kind of like flex their knowledge about the deck. And it did get some new support too, things like the Nami Searcher, where that searches, I think, an event when you attack, and things of that nature. Very good cards, and so we're going to put it at bottom of tier 1.5. Katakuri, probably bottom of tier 2, or maybe even Rogue. It did get some support, but again, you are still a Casino Curry. I think, honestly, Enel still feels stronger than Katakuri in general. I almost want to put him top of tier 3. Yeah, I'll put him top of tier 3 for now. I really don't believe in this deck. Maybe some of you guys do. But yeah, we'll put him there. Vivi. Don't hate me, Chad. I'm going to put a Vivi in locals. I'm not a believer. I think Vivi will just struggle into Purple Luffy and Dofi as well. We'll just keep it at that. Grape Dofi. So this deck, I know that some people have been trying to cook with it. I think it gets much stronger in set 10. I think right now it's probably bottom of tier 3, but be on the lookout. This deck may come back next set. Same with Rebecca. We're going to put Rebecca at locals for now, but I do think that this deck will come back in set 10. Queen, I'm going to put it in locals. Sorry, I should have more thoroughly went through this list, but I did want to put some of the leaders that could be on the cusp of tier 3 and locals. I wanted to talk about it a little bit, but we'll just keep going. Red, Yellow, Bello Betty. Definitely a rogue deck that I think can sneak into the tops. This deck got some interesting new support. I don't think you play it all, but you definitely play like the Koala. And one of my buddies, Zach, has been running this deck a lot and has been showing, and my other friend Joe Quatman, and they've been showing me just how scary this deck could be. It definitely has a great match into Blackbeard, and it's just really fast. It's a lot of pressure. When it sees what it wants to see, it'll just high roll and just run you over. And it does have some ways to kind of be more consistent nowadays, like with this iteration more so than ever. I know a lot of people are playing the 10 cost Roger now, which is a great closer. And so, honestly, could probably be in tier 2, but I'm going to put it in Rogue. We'll put it in tier 2. Yeah, we're going to put it in tier 2. Doesn't feel right to put it next to Law. Yeah, so tier 2, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see a few Bella Betty sneak into the top cut. And so, Purple Luffy, definitely top of 1.5. This deck just became very strong, very consistent, so much draw power. I hate Gum Gum Giant with a passion. That card is so busted. You get to get rid of a card in hand that's dead. And you get to draw more cards that could be live. And it's a 4K counter for 1 energy. This is so good. It works so well with all of your top end because most of the top end you're playing, most you're going to go play a 9 cost like the Luffy or Big Mom. And so it just has a lot of flexible playing lines, a lot of search, a lot of consistency, good defense, high bodies. What's not to like about it, right? And a lot of draw power. Top of 1.5 for sure. So Enel. Is Enel better than Bello Betty? I think Enel struggles in this meta, being that the top decks all can kind of deal with Enel shenanigans, but yeah, we're going to put it at tier 2 below Bello Betty. I do think this leader still is pretty strong, and in the right hands, you could just see everything you need to see to kind of close out a game, and so, yeah, we'll put it in tier 2. Perona, I'm going to put in Rogue. I do think probably above Law. It is a strong deck still. Has green and black as an interesting color combination. But I do think it does not quite get there compared to the other decks. Yamato, we're going to also put in Rogue. There's going to be a lot of Rogue decks, I think. Again, pretty strong, but in comparison to like the tier 1 through 2, just not quite there yet. I'm honestly maybe Yamato's tier 3, to be honest. I'll put it like kind of in the same area as Katakuri. Reiju. Reiju gets shut down by Blackbeard. We're going to put it in tier 3 as well. I think you do just kind of suffer into some of the top matchups, and so if you high roll, you high roll, right? But even then, like Blackbeard shuts you off. I think Dofi still has a pretty good shot into that matchup as well. Moria, honestly, Moria I feel like is not bad either. I just think people moved off of him. Moria plays off of Grave. You can kind of go wide. You don't get the on play against Blackbeard, but I don't think you go as fast or as wide as Dofi, but you do have some interesting removal that can hit a lot of the Dofi summons. My gut tells me to put him at bottom of tier 2. I kind of wish that more people still played Moria. I don't think it's a bad leader, honestly. But again, that could just be my cope. Bonnie, definitely top of 1.5. Probably a little bit below Luffy, but these are all very similar. I know, like, we're separating a tier here, and they're putting these kind of in order here, but I would say these are all very, very similar. I would not be surprised to see any of these come up in the top 8. Boa, honestly, kind of just like a worse Dofi. I think Boa's still pretty good, though. But I just think Dofi just does everything Boa wants to do a little bit better. Of course, you get the consistent draw from Boa, but Dofi's aggression and being able to go a little bit wider definitely helps, especially in like the Blackbeard matchup too. I think Boa gets shut down a lot harder than Dofi would in that match. Ooh, Foxy. Top of tier 2, probably. Honestly, maybe it's just because I don't know really how to play into this deck. But it's been kind of a little scary when I see it in my practice matches. But honestly, I still don't understand fully where this power is. So I'm going to put it in tier 2. Chat, let me know if I should be valuing the Foxy even more and prepping for it in nationals, because honestly I just haven't played against it enough, and so I don't really know the lines it wants to do, but I do know that it ironically is quite strong into the top meta decks, and so we'll leave it there. Lucci, definitely still 1.5. Even with the existence of Blackbeard, I think you adjust your Lucci list. I think you play your Morjacks, you play your Kaidos, and you kind of adjust there. Even things like Zombie Luffy could be a good adjustment. And I think you're kind of chilling. Like, you still are a very consistent deck that can do a lot of removal. Vegapunk. So Vegapunk had a lot of success in 8.5, which was really cool to see. I don't know how he does in 9, though. I don't think he got any new support in 9. And I do think... We'll put him in tier 2, top of tier 2. Again, let me know, guys, if you think Vegapunk is in the wrong tier right now. Marco, I'm going to put it in Rogue or tier 3. I'm going to put it in tier 3. Marco did pretty well in 8.5. It had a lot of removal. I think it does pretty well into Dofi. But I think with the new meta now, it does struggle a little bit more than it used to. And so, yeah, we'll put it in tier 3. Same with Carrot. I think Carrot's just a little bit worse. Bonnie. I'm going to put her in tier 3, probably below Reiju. Pudding, keep at locals. I don't think that leader's that great. Sanji, I'm going to put in Rogue tier. I think this deck crushes probably Blackbeard. But I think it loses to everything else. I think everything else can kind of stabilize into Sanji. But I do think... I wouldn't be surprised to see like Sanji in the top 32, top 64 here and there. Shanks. Shanks definitely 1.5. Above Bonnie. Below Bonnie. Honestly, these three I would say are like kind of tied. Maybe Purple Luffy being a little bit better. So Shanks, honestly, Shanks was who I was going to start maining this set, but I didn't really like the playstyle as much. It felt actually very similar to Bonnie. And hear me out. Like, so Bonnie in 7 and 8 kind of felt like you're making two choices, like a choice A or choice B, to kind of respond and set up for your turns, because you play kind of these bigger bodies that have high impact in the game, and making those A-B decisions across, multiple turns is how you gain your advantage, and you have a defensive leader ability, right? Because Shanks arguably has a defensive leader ability as well. Maybe not quite as good as Bonnie's, but still very good. And so these two decks actually felt very similar to me while playing, and the thing about Bonnie is I kind of got bored of that playstyle. And so playing Shanks after about a week or two, I got a little bored, but I do think it's a very strong deck. I think you have a lot of skill expression in the deck, especially with how you build it. But the difference between the two is you don't run any searchers, or I didn't run any searchers in my variation. And so, yeah, I do think it's a very strong deck. I think with the right pilot, you can just snowball things into your favor and really start to overwhelm your opponent in the mid to late game. But again, it just wasn't my style. And so, but yeah, we're definitely a strong deck, 1.5 for sure. One of the top contenders for top tier decks. And so, Lim, tier 3. I've tried testing this deck. It just does not really work that well right now. I think in 10 it gets a big boost, but for now we're going to put it there. Buggy, same thing. We're going to put in tier 3. PB Luffy. We'll talk about Buggy a little bit. Buggy, I wish it was a little bit better. Maybe I just got to practice the deck a little bit more. But you're doing things, but I feel like in comparison to some of these decks here, it just doesn't feel like you're doing enough. But yeah, we're putting a bottom of tier 3. If someone knows a good Buggy strat and has a good list, hit me up, please. I really want to try this leader and try to make it my fun deck. And so we have PB Luffy. Honestly, I don't think this leader is that bad. I think just that purple Luffy is better. I'm gonna put it in bottom of tier 2. Being 4 life kind of sucks, but you do have a unique ability and a kind of a higher skill cap leader ability where when you don minus, you can get that one back as active if you minus more than one. And so you can do some cheeky play lines with that. But again, I think people need to explore that a little bit more, but I don't think people are because purple Luffy is a little bit more, probably easier to pilot and more comfortable to pilot. And so Nico Robin, Rogue, tier 3. This leader, I want it to be so good, but although I did lose to it a few times, but it feels like, at least the iterations I saw, slightly worse in L. But again, maybe there's another way to play it. I think it still is underexplored. I do want to try some more aggressive builds on Nico Robin, but I honestly just haven't had enough time to test it, and so we're just going to put it in tier 3. Blackbeard, locals only, guys. Keep this guy in locals. No, I'm just kidding. This guy is definitely tier 1. I was confused at first when people were putting it in tier 1 instead, like above some of these other decks, but the more I play this deck, the more I see just how powerful it could be. And I'm terrible at piloting it still, but again, just the amount of lines you have and how consistent the deck can be. It's going to be one of those decks where if you pick it up and put in the hours and really learn the other meta decks, and you will be rewarded. And so, yeah, very strong. I don't know why. Red, purple, law, rip. So red, purple, Luffy. I'm going to put in top of tier 2, bottom of tier 1.5. I do think this deck is actually quite good. My boy Jonic, Kaizoku Cards, has been cooking with this deck. We're going to put a 1.5 for him, bottom 1.5. It's powerful. It has a lot of play lines. I think it has a really good matchup actually into Dofi when built correctly. And I do think it could be pretty good into Blackbeard as well. And so, yeah, I do think it takes advantage of some of the newer purple stuff that we're seeing, as well as some of the red Shanks cards and stuff. And so, very interesting deck. I think it is a little bit harder to navigate, being a 3 life leader, when things like Dofi does exist. But again, I do think you can kind of get there. Yeah, and so 1.5, I wouldn't be surprised to see it in top 32, honestly. At least from what I've tested / seen being tested. RP Kid, honestly, tier 3, maybe, yeah, tier 3, bottom of tier 3. Maybe a little bit above these guys, but even with the new support, it just does not feel fantastic yet. And it pains me because I love this leader, but it's just not there yet, fam. And when you're not there, you're not there. And so I think it does struggle into some of the top meta decks. And so, but again, I need to explore it a little bit more. I've been trying to make a few iterations of this, but it feels underwhelming in all of my testing, which is very sad for me. But give me more time. I have to cook. Uta, probably Rogue. I don't think it's a bad deck, actually, but I don't think it does enough in this meta. But generically, always strong, good effect, plays a lot of great cards. But we'll put it in Rogue. Red, yellow, Sabo. I'm going to put it on top of tier 3. I do think this deck is quite good. And it did get some more support, too. And so I just think, again, this is quite an underexplored leader for the most part. Maybe there's stuff there that we're not seeing, but we probably won't see because not enough people are testing it. Blue, yellow, ace. I'm going to put in locals. I want this leader to be good. I think he got some new support in 08. I don't know if we got anything in 9, but Yeah, it's just not consistent enough yet. Honestly, that's just from what I tested. And I've been testing this deck quite a bit in End of 8. But yeah, BY Luffy. BY Luffy, I still think is a very 1.5 deck. It used to be tier 1. I think it has a really tough matchup with the Blackbeard, but and tough matches with the Bonnie. But honestly, like good BY Luffy pilots play around and understand the deck so well. They're able to play around a lot of these things, and so I think it does have a pretty good chance into Dofi. Probably even favored in that match, but yeah, Blackbeard is definitely a tough matchup for it, but not completely unwinnable. And so I think we'll probably still see some BY Luffy players topping, especially because people have had such long practice into it, and seeing the new tech that's being teched in to answer some of the questions in the meta is really cool. That deck is so flexible. And last but not least, starter 14 Luffy. Honestly, probably like tier 3. Top of tier 3, probably. Not a bad deck. Not a great deck anymore either. I mean, nothing really changed too much other than Blackbeard's existence. And so, I think you do struggle into Blackbeard. I think you have a decent shot into like Dofi, P. Luffy, and Shanks probably, but still probably struggle a little bit into BY Luffy as well. But yeah, this is the tier list. Let me know what you guys think. I know I kind of went through this a little bit quicker. How long is this video? Did I even go through it quick? I can't even tell. 30 minutes. Not bad, chat. But yeah, these are my thoughts. This is my tier list. I think what's cool to see is if you look at the tier 1 and 1.5 decks, there's a lot of options you guys can have to start playing. So really looking forward to seeing what this meta unfolds to. Seems really diverse so far. A lot of great decks. But yeah, with that being said, adakai TCGO.